I'd now like to introduce you to our main speaker of the day, the legendary Ali Hamidi.
Ah, tumbleweed. All right, lovely round of applause. Thank you.
Cheers. We got two.
Where's my mic? Ah, no. My voice is going. There you go. Hello.
Check. Oh, that's working now there.
Oh, I'd pull some birds now with that voice, wouldn't I? It's really gone. Shame we're not in South. We are South London, aren't we? South of the river, aren't we?
We're south. It's south.
West. Where are we? Southwest, yeah.
No,
I used
we're
to
not
have a boat
southwest.
here on Kingston on Thames.
Southwest is Cornwall and Devon. That's southwest.
No, but we're talking London.
Right.
London southwest. This is southwest. Can you hear us in the cheap seats? Yeah. Great stuff. I've got no idea what we're going to talk about today. I do. So Steve was helped organise the cinema premiere. I don't know if any. Did everyone watch the last episode of Grand Fishing Adventure? Hands up, who saw the Grand Fishing Adventure? Oh, not all of you. Vass, did you watch it? He's got a private jet company, this geezer. Private jet. Do you know what he said earlier? He said, we're working on like a rod and reel kit. I'm going to tell you, but I'll go off on tangents. I'm sorry. Before we go back to the Grand Fishing, we're working on a rod and reel kit, which is so when I go on holiday, if you ever come across water, you want, but you didn't know you were going to come across water. You want to be able to take like a little travel rod with you. Always done that when I've gone on holiday. See water, wish I had a rod with me, Steve, right? Anyway, just said to Vass earlier, I said, we're working on this thing. He said, well, we could get a private jet to different locations, can we, Vass? That's what he said. And how far can we go? How far can we stretch to? Distance. I'm getting some live commitment here.
He's going to say Brighton.
The first fishing film done on a private jet. That'd be good, wouldn't it? Would you watch it? Yeah. You jealous that I get to do it? Yeah. So you'll all batter me on social about it. Yeah. It's not real fishing, but it was bloody good.
I think he'll take you though from London Luton just to Coventry. And that'll be it.
Yeah. You haven't said we need a mileage on it, Vass, because I can find some great lakes. Up to America.
That was witnesses.
My God.
We had witnesses then. He said America.
Did you? Have we all witnessed that? So we're going to test the OMC Travel Rod and Reel combo kit with a private jet
in North America.
This is unbelievable. Who'd like to come on that trip?
We'll do a competition for that.
Frank, do you want to come on it? But we're all watching Johnny Vaughan on your phone. I would love you to go. The stories all the way. Can you imagine? Be the best trip in the world. Anyway, back to that. We're talking about a grand adventure. So, those that watched the last series, Steve, we told them at the cinema that I'm going to have a little break from telly for a while, aren't I? Why is that?
Well, the idea behind that is to try and produce more content on YouTube and social media, and to really be able to kind of build a good library of content on YouTube. That was the main reason for that.
Yes.
And also because you've run out of places to go fishing.
I don't know about you, but I mean, this is why I love talking to an audience directly, is that we've got some clips here. I'll show you some of the behind the scenes. Well, some of the clips were in it, and the big moments. But I sort of feel like now there's so much content out there on YouTube that do you get bored of it? Some of it? Is it repetitive? It's all the same, yeah? The only thing I feel like really gets, after doing that one where you've got an underwater we'll show you the clip, I'll tell you why, but for me, that was the first shoot in a long time where you were really stimulated again. So you had the underwater cameras there, but they're not live, so you're not seeing it unfold in front of you. You're only finding out afterwards, a bit later, what's happened, not happened, then you can make a reaction. But like the format, but it's time consuming. So the decision is, we'll play this little clip. I'll talk to you about Luke, who's a friend who we've discovered now. Good carp angler. I think it's the first. am I back up? Yeah, so Luke has become our own personal fish finder, right? So not only do we now have drones, we now have Luke. Yeah, so it's actually Brit. So when we were at Ictus, it was funny. We saw some fish on a drone. So this is how much production and how mad it's gone. I know some of you can't relate to it, but actually catching a fish underwater, I think, is the hardest way to try to catch a carp. You ever tried it?
No.
You think it's easy or hard?
It was much harder, much harder.
Who thinks it's easier to catch a fish underwater than it is just going fishing normally, like without a camera stuck in front of them? No one? Who would like to do it? Yes. You've done it?
No, I'll try it.
You try it. So what I like about Luke is when we did when I was involved with the Corder projects, you put a live camera in and you're committed to an area. So that's it. That's where you got to fish. And if you're moving, you've got to move the whole lot. The good thing with Luke is he's swimming out with mobile cameras. So you're in effect, you are fishing like you normally would. But you're not finding out anything live. You've got to find it out afterwards. But you're very, very versatile, which is why the big break from telly, because next year we're going to go and do hopefully one of these at Grenville, and then another one at Ictus again with the run water. But who would like to see more underwater in television? Yeah.
I think there's a question there, which is, there's two types of underwater. There's that live underwater, which, like on the Corder tapes, where you're restricted by cable length, by position, and you've committed to a spot. So there's kind of like live underwater, and then there's ours, which is that kind of like reviewing thing, where you can get a camera in an awkward place. You can move it 6 foot if you don't get a good drop, but you can't see the fish come in live. You just got to review the content, adjust, and then try and catch them. I think 2 different styles.
Yeah, you have, and you're not as limited with a live cam. You are a little bit limited, cable length, all that type of stuff. But with this, you can go to some random places. You can also manoeuvre as long as there's enough light. I mean, with what people don't realise, this particular show was the reason Luke was there was because we'd got a fair bit of footage of hooking fish with the magic twig, but we still needed that holy grail. We needed one, and it was only by sheer, heroics, which is why you saw the stuff of me crying on social, that it was this particular, which we'll show you the clip again at the end, but that was the whole reason he was there. So it all happened by default, really, because we needed clarity, we needed to research stuff. And doing this type of, I think you learn the most from the underwater footage. It's feels a little bit like like a controlled, I don't know, it feels strange, but this way feels more real.
Yeah, I think with the live stuff as well, you tend to get hung up on the presentation as well. So I've seen a lot of the live films where they've dropped a bait and then looked at it on the live camera, I'll drop it again, and you start to lose that sense of realism. Whereas in this situation,
you just tell Luke to swim out and just tweak
Luke drop it,
Yeah. Well, yeah, the interesting thing, you'll put your rod out, and then he will follow the line all the way, which is what the next clip, governor. It's boring going fishing now without Luke there, because you're like, oh, right, what's going on out there? I don't know, can't see.
I think Frank Warwick's thinking
Frank's
about
Parco. Fall asleep.
Take him to Parco, Frank. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Is it clear enough at Parco for a diver? Sometimes. Yeah.
If you can't hear what Frank said there, folks, what Frank was saying, which is a really good point actually, was it would be cool to see leads hitting the water and the effect of feeding fish with leads raining down on them.
Or how long, if they disappear straight away, how long they take to come back. And I suppose that, I mean, one of the issues sometimes you can't. You could put certain cameras in and leave them in position. Then you could cast, but you'd have to tie. You'd need to be lucky in the way that the fish would need to be in a. You can get them on the drone. We've filmed casting with fish there on the drone. Some lakes they disappear, and some lakes they're like, oh, nice one, lovely. Yeah, here it comes. But yeah, so this is what I mean. Luke going out. I mean, that's one of the. You got the plus side of you put your spot out, but then you got the negative of a human swimming out and sticking a camera in place. But it's a lovely little edge there. Right, next clip, fine margins. So this is the one. This is the one bit that I always, yeah. So this was on a day when nothing was happening. So you'd think swim was empty. And this was my swim under a tree. So it's Carp CCTV. Oh, Terry the Tinker. Oh, Carp. Now you're talking. Look, that's a big one, isn't it? Look at the size of that. Good. Oh, that spooked away.
Oh, yeah, he didn't like something.
Look how much it's moved the rig, look.
Oh, wow.
And how much bait it's moved. Now this is your spot. White hook bait. Not much fish.
Is this a still or is this like an actual film? Because there's not a lot going on here.
Looks like a still. So he, even though caught absolutely nothing that day, was only a confident fish away from a pickup probably. And this was Bobby's swim. He thought it was a photograph.
He was grumpy as well. He was really grumpy about that.
He was.
Are you surprised when you look at that bit of footage how close those fish came to a pickup and didn't pick up, and how often you can sit and think there's nothing in my swim, but actually your swim's buzzing with fish, just they haven't picked up?
That was it, yeah. Yeah, how many...
Yeah, you get a buzz on your line and that's it.
Yeah.
And you know they're there.
That's a single beep if you're lucky, you know?
No, there's no bait. It didn't even come near, it didn't take the hook bait.
Yeah. But I mean, near the line and, you know, how close they are to the baited area.
But I mean, that must happen to her. The amount of times we've probably blanked. That's what I tell myself. Where we might have been within a whisker of a pickup. And I think this was after there was a day. So before you play this clip, sorry. This particular part shows you the shift. You can be. How many people have been to France? What, on a week-long trip? So I've been on a lot of those trips over the years, and I've seen how, on a commercial lake, how people can lose their head really quickly on a trip. You go on a lake, you're in a particular swim, you've drawn, and that's it. That's your hole for the week, basically. Yeah. And one night goes, you don't catch anything. A second night goes, no one, you haven't caught. Someone else has started catching. Maybe 60% of the lake started catching and you're not. That's when the heads start going, don't they?
Oh, yeah, massively, yeah. I got to move swims, got to change, wrong bait, wrong rig, everything goes.
I've seen it so many times, but on these commercial lakes in France, which is it only takes a weather change or as simple as getting your lines out of the water. Literally, got lines all around the lake. One of you goes... It's got to wind in, whether it's 12 hours, but people don't. When they've paid for a holiday to go to France, they want to fish 24/7. But I once said to someone, if I said to you, you're going to fish a third of the amount of time, but you're going to catch 4 times the amount of fish as fishing 24/7, if I could guarantee you that, what would you pick? Would you go for the third of the amount of time for 4 times the amount of fish to fishing 24/7 and catching a quarter of the amount?
Yeah, I did that when I went to France last time, I was knackered, I was catching quite a few fish and we went out for the day. And no one else caught anything, and I put my rod back in and I got a fish for 10 minutes.
So what you've said there, I only really learnt that by I learned that by default in France, because in the early days when I was at Corda and we were doing Thinking Tackle, Danny would be presenting everything. I would be doing the directing with the cameraman, and we'd be on a complex called Maison de Lac Bleu. Lots of lakes. We're on the Corda staff social. Everyone's there. Every swim's taken. So every morning I would wind in to go round to, say, Dan on another lake, to sit there direct. We'd be doing different DVDs or whatever it was. No lines in my swim. I used to put like a kilo of boilies out, and then I'd go back at lunchtime, put another kilo of boilies out. The whole time everyone's fishing. Yeah, Danny's fishing, everyone. I'd go back, and all these lakes are, you know, small compressed commercials. No one's catching. I'd go back after dinner when, you know, it's getting dark, put the rods out, bite within 10 minutes. And that would happen on so many, and that was become a huge pattern. And this actually, Bobby got the lines out, had a little weather condition front, and if you go to the next clip, see the transformation of a swim. So I think he had the lines out for about half a day, put his rigs back in, and then, look, this pod of absolute monsters came into the area.
Next. Oh my God, that's your hook bait, Bob. Did you see that?
Go back.
Let's have an action replay. Dazzler, it's touched your hook bait.
Oh, it's missed it by
It's mouthed it.
by millimetres.
Well, it's literally mouthed it, but not taken it in.
If you've kept the bait going in, you've built the area up, you've kept it going in, it's not big fish for, if you've caught steadily all week and you've had a few big fish, it ain't big fish Thursday anymore, but a lot of times, those big uns can come towards the end of the trip. And that's exactly, so even though this particular day, we looked at the clips and it was, you gone from a swim with nothing in it, he was like, I'm going to wind in. I'm like, okay. And then, as I say, half a day, rod back out, and then if we go to the fight, yeah.
That's the one that's underwater. Come on, you beauty.
This is same spot, just slightly different camera angle. And this was one of four absolute monsters. This was obviously the hero shot for the twig, which we'd never imagined. I didn't even catch it and I was crying. So, but look at how confident them fish are now, just with a little bit of freedom in the area. And the other thing was that he had 2 rods on that bar and he reduced it to 1. So line pressure on these commercial lakes makes so much difference, you know, and it is a real big way of hoodwinking them. Like that clip, didn't you, Steve?
That's a mega clip.
The clarity.
If you could direct a carp, that is exactly what you'd ask him to do. Come in from the left, pick up the bait and leave by the right. Keep eating. Yeah. Pick up the hook and still keep eating. Look, there
it's only do you know, once every couple of years that fish gets caught, which is quite, you know, it's not regular. But because of my desperation to get the underwater content in the daytime, that area, we'd gone from fishing 2 rods at the start, 1, you know, to both having 3 out. But we'd put a couple where there was no cameras in deeper water as well. Anyone got any questions?
There's got to be loads of questions.
Come on, someone must have one. Or something you're dying to ask.
What inspired you on the twig then?
What inspired me on the twig? Well, it was a guy, Craig Barwell, plumber from the Midlands, that came up to me with the original thing. But why it resonated with me was because I'd spent so much time in an underwater tent before watching fish get away with taking the bait, the hook going into the mouth, and just, without even getting a bleep, they just shake their heads and the whole lot comes out. So it was there was always that one, we've got a lot of good rigs now, very good hook links, very good hook mechanics, But I felt there was still that one thing that was just missing that could just take the percentage of conversion up quite a long way. And Luke, the reason I met Luke and Underfishing was to research that product. So even since then, when we launched it, when we went to production, we'd had 12 hooked fish from 12 pickups, which if I think back to the underwater films, if we had 25 pickups, we might hook 5 fish. So it was, for me, with that history, I was like, blimey, that's significant. And it wasn't just on one lake. We were doing these tests on, I think it was 6 different lakes, 5 different countries. So it was a good spread. And since then, I've still got them wherever they're going, they're using them, because what I'd like to get to is 100 underwater pickups, and then to be able to go, right, out of 100, this was how many was hooked. So I know, and then maybe one day we can get to 200 pickups free, and to really be able to say to someone, based on the data I have collated in my life, I think it's going to give you 50% better,
You can see in that hook, in that clip, that it's effective.
Yeah, well, interesting, on the internet, we all know about the trolling that we had to put up with, but people were trying to tell me it hadn't gone off. But I'm like, you understand that once this is extended and there's a giant fish on the end, it won't collapse back to its neutral state. And I said it's on the side, so the arms they only go away about 1.5 mil from the side, so like you're not going to see it, they're not going to spring out like that. So,
and also that fish is motoring off at considerable speed against water pressure, so it's going to push it back.
Let's have it right, it didn't do any harm, did it? No. And for me, I always say to people, I'd rather have it on than not on, even if I was going to catch the fish anyway. Going by the information over the years I've gained, and I've watched others experience in a tent with me, that was another mechanical performance that a rig would benefit from, And it is a game of opinions, though. But I've tried to put data to the opinion so that it's got depth.
Hence why you're collecting all the...
Want to keep doing it. Want to keep learning. I want to see whether I know nothing's 100%. That's impossible because of all the angles, the variables, the things that we come into contact with. But if we can get nearer to 100% from 20, 30, I mean, I'm always me and Frank go back a very long time. He's someone I absolutely love. He's very influential in my career, even I'd say about Frank. But Frank, you were the pinnacle of rigs and evolution in fluoro pop-ups. Frank was the man that made that happen. They didn't even exist down here. It all came from that man at the back in the back row. But when it comes to rigs, Frank, your best rig, how successful do you think it is with regards to converting pickups? I know you've always been a big lead fan, haven't you? 5-ounce leads, no matter where you go. I think he said 1 out of 5. I think Frank's rigs are better than that. I'd say 1.2. No, I think I don't know, because you've always been a straight point hook fan. Frank used to, I used to just study him like a stalker. Yeah, and then once I got his number, I called him like a stalker. It really did. Like when I moved up to, a lot of people will know the history, some people won't. But when I moved up north to go to uni, and my parents moved up there, I went into a tackle shop and I was like, oh my God, it's Frank Warwick. And he was working there. He sold me my first ever set of fire waders. But Frank, obviously, he was such a pioneer for a lot of things. So the straight point, long shank hook, what was the Gamakatsu, wasn't it, Frank? So when Corda brought the long shank out, it was all come from really Frank's inspiration and then a little intern on the eye. So rig-wise, I was always interested and going back to the twig, Frank, with all of his experience fishing everywhere, he thinks everything he's learned, he's got it to a rig that's 1 in 5. So if we can get it to 4 in 5, you're in, right? No, but it's similar. It's like Steve, when Steve Renyard come on and hammered me saying I'd copied the Hermit, and then he realised I hadn't. But the principle of elastic and bounce is, there's something in that, isn't there? Yeah, keeps the hook in. Yeah. The bounce and the... Definitely. It stops them bouncing. So in carp fishing, no, the biggest thing when Craig came to us with that original concept, he came to me with a bit of postman's elastic, 2 swivels, a bit of braid and a stem of carbon to pull 2 swivels apart. I was like, wow, how's that going to become a commercial product? That's why the arms are like they are. You've got to join 2 sections together. It's got to be castable. We did no-armed versions. I did twist and lock versions. Everything all the engineers thought, but then they get grit inside and get cloggy and don't work the same. And then it's not suddenly as effective. So and obviously we'd done all the safety tests, but I can't go on the internet and show you all these videos of divers trying to pull it through trees, because the people that will get fishing banned are fishermen. If we keep harping on about the high horse of all the things we do right or wrong, because ultimately on the internet everyone sees it. So I've got people from PETA that follow my pages, so I can't go out and defend our product with all the evidence we've done in our research to then blacken the name of fishing. So the design had to be that. In the first instance, things might change in the future, but it had to be that to tick all the boxes of all the things we're likely to face. Right, anyway, less of the twig. Any other questions? Any other questions? Go on, Frankie boy. No, I like you monopolising it. Yeah, there is more and more tech. We have actually got, we've got sound on some of ours. Some of the early takes at Oriana underwater, it's got the sound. I actually hear it going off.
What I'd like you to do is to play on a loop underwater the sound of carp feeding.
Yeah. Yeah. 1,000,000%. So the underfishing lads, they claim that obviously the sound of fish crunching, chewing their food, same as a spod landing on like Zazaki in Croatia draws more fish in. It definitely does. So you're saying like a mating call underwater? I think this is why I love Frank, because I could sit there and it one idea it leads to another. But who would think sound underwater could attract more fish into your swim?
Have you heard of donking for catfish in the Ebro?
Yeah, that's a different. Yeah,
that was the old banging on the boat.
It's one of their senses, right? Where's that lead moulder with a speaker? I'm writing notes now.
Numbers.
We'll have to cut you in on that one, though, Frank. If we do a fixed fishing weight with a speaker in it. Yeah, I don't think we'd be too happy about dumping leads with speakers in them. Would we, playing out carp feeding sounds? I think that 1,000,000% work, Frank. But the underwater, going back to Frank's theory, the underwater divers really believe, they've seen it in so much footage. One feeds, it feels like there's only one fish in the area, and they can hear the crunching on the camera, and then suddenly another one comes in, and another one, and another one, and what? It's not like I can see it. It's not like, Fred's over there. He's found some tiger nuts. Yeah, they're hearing it, aren't they?
It's the vibration in the water, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good one, that.
That's a good one, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I like it.
That. And the important, everybody in this room
don't
was
tell
there when that
Logic.
was designed. They're all going to claim some part of that as well. Everyone's got more 1% of that idea.
You didn't believe in that, sir, did you? Sound and leads? No? No? No. I'm pointing at you. Did you believe in sound under? Yeah, he's moving out of the way. He's the shy one. Right,
have you got any more questions?
Come on.
I've got one.
Go on, champ.
In your opinion, what is the benefit of using a heavy lead? Because if you look at a 1 ounce lead, you can cast it really far, but then the majority of anglers will use a 2 or 3 or 4 ounce lead. What would you say the reason for that is?
Well, I think the reason for using 2s and 3s is because they feel nice on the finger, they're easy to cast, they work with your different rods. When you get into the extremes, there's technical reasons for it. Like for me, I find it easier if I'm casting a long way to use a 5-ounce lead than I do a 4.5 ounce. Because I'm shorter, I load a rod better with a 5. Frank uses 5s. Honestly, we used to do British champs together years ago. He'd fish 5-ounce tournament leads everywhere. So it is. You still do, yeah. Up to 10. So me, I'm a heavy lead fanatic. If I could, I'd use a 10-ounce lead and a heavy magic twig, and then they ain't getting away with that anywhere. But you're not gonna. Who's gonna turn up at a lovely estate lake in the UK and chuck out a 10-ounce lead? You're not. It's not the most beautiful. It's all right if you're lowering it from a boat. If I'm gonna cast it out, so I think people use 2s and 3s, size of the splash, easy to use. And then when we go somewhere and we're stalking, our natural instinct is go even lighter possibly, or something that's going to make the least amount of disturbance. So often if I'm lowering it in, I will go heavier because I can lower it in. So there's no noise. So for me, for hooking mechanics, I think so, yeah. It's basic, it's physics almost. But then I think back to some of the success I've had on some lakes where it was about sound and not scaring them. I used to use 1.25 ounce leads on a helicopter rig and caught some of my best fish with that as well, you know. But I always used to think, how are they getting hooked, you know, so well? But I reckon by the time I knew I had a bite with a slack line, they've hit the tip. I never use really loose clutches. I like quite a tight clutch. So I've really got to work the line off, and I think that all helps to obviously improve the hook hold before I've got to the rod. Yeah, it's like, you know, if you're just free lining, you know, they could just suck and blow. If the line stays slack, you know, you do need some tension or something to wind that hook in.
I think there's some interesting footage. If you watch some underwater footage of light leads going in as well, as you put your rod on your buzzer bars and tighten that line up, you'll be amazed how little tension you need to move a lead. It's incredible. You can move a lead 6 inches just by putting your bobbin on, you know. That
and also a lot of that's to do with your line angle. So when you first cast out, that is the point where your lead, irrespective of the weight, is under the most amount of tension, believe it or not, even when it's slack, because when it's going up like that and then down again. So I found that out again doing the underwater filming. I'd cast out, I think I was using, like a 3 ounce, I think I was using a 3 ounce lead in a solid bag, cast it out. And I remember I always had my line really slack and then just with my finger, just slowly, just tease it down. I remember Duffy going, ow, stop. I was like, what? I'm not doing it. I've just got my finger on my line. And even that where I first cast out, lines coming up, coming back, that tiny bit of pressure was enough to just make it jerk, to make him think I was going to pull it even tighter, make it jerk even more. But that's how little tension you need on at the beginning. But then the more the line sinks, the more you can get away with.
I've seen it on solid bags as well.
Because they've got air in them.
They've got air in them. So actually for that first 15, 20 seconds of a bag in the water, it's quite buoyant. It is just sort of just hovering off the bottom.
On the edge, yeah.
Until that bag starts to go, the weight's not really involved.
Even if you pierced them, I don't know what it is. It's almost like there's that water gets in, there's a vacuum, and then
So essentially, heavier the better. 5 ounce lead, says Frank, and that's the answer.
Yeah. He's caught a few.
Another question.
Yeah, of course you can.
I noticed that when I was catfishing in Spain, we hooked a few carp accidentally, and because using like a 1.5 pound lead, I noticed when I started to get the fish up to net it, because of the lead swinging, it knocked the hook out of his mouth. That was a thing that I thought.
Drop the lead.
Yeah, so you're
you can't
saying...
play a fish like that.
So what the gentleman said, he was fishing in Spain, he was using very heavy leads. Then you were hooking carp by
accident. We were going for like £100 catch.
Yeah, so you were catching the carp by accident on the cat gear, and then you were finding that big weight.
It was
Yeah, it just shake. It will, because it goes back to the whole twig thing. They can use that weight. If it doesn't come off, they can often use it to. They can shake it out, and then that comes down to your length for your hook link. It's funny. You play a fish on a zig with a 15-foot hook link, and the lead's still on. You're not even really getting. I've watched people play them, and they're not even getting a tight line to the hook because they're playing their lead the whole way. But because the hook link stays tight, it just keeps the hook in. But if that hook, that lead was closer down there and was constantly bouncing, got a chance. Yeah, you got a chance of bumping it out. It can work either way for you. You know, you've seen that's why a lot of people, certainly in the UK, we like to dump the lead to get a straight line to that hook to keep the constant pressure. Any other questions? Oh, so is that Frank Warwick? What's that?
When you're doing the filming, have you ever filmed the method feeder?
Have we done the method feed? No, I haven't, but I want to, because I mean, the solid bag is the nearest I've done, I think, to it. Which similar principle. I watched the Guru one, but it's not on a proper carp lake. It's on a smaller carp lake, so everything that comes in goes to it. But it's one of those methods that was once really popular in big carp fishing, and then it's gone again, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the most effective things I've ever used.
Yeah, and I mean, how many of you have ever used a big method feeder carp fishing? Yeah, I mean that when Frank's saying it's good, when we went to, I mean you've used them in America as well, Frank, haven't you? With the when we went to do the buffalo carp in America, you realise locals, they don't get all the stuff we get, but they'd really got down to some really good bait. And they were using, you love the pack baits, didn't you, Frank, and grits and all that type of stuff. But it reminded me in America just how good a method feeder is for big carp. And we don't use them. We don't really use them here at all. They're quick. You can load them up full of attraction. They're quicker than a solid bag, that's for sure. Mm. And boy, like I was catching, I reckon. So we've gone there. Spooner's here, he'll tell you himself. They were using, I think they were using helicopters and spinners. They'd gone like UK method. And this is for buffalo carp, it just shows you. And I went in with the American approach, method feeder, braided hook link, and the local bait. And I reckon I was catching 6 or 7 to their 1 at the start. And it took them 2 days, and they changed, and then we were all equal catch rate. That's going from what we thought was our best methods. And a lot of that's down to the hook link material as well, didn't suit that species, but also that big pile of bait every time round you. That's why solid bags are so good. But I'd say a method feeder is easier to use than a solid bag because it's on, but obviously it's probably not as efficient in heavy weed, which is why I think it's got forgotten about. You're still using them a lot, Frank?
Basically, when I went over there, I used it with a piece of dissolving foam, so the hook bait would fall away from the ball, which was the most successful way in England, because when I used it in the ball and acting, burying the hook length inside it didn't work. So it had to fall away from it. It's almost like it break down, the fish would feed on the edge of the... You'd fool them. Italy, completely different. You had to put, Nicholas Holzer says to me, he says, mate, you've got to put the hook length, the width of your hand it was, so it's about 4 inches across. You bury it inside the bait, and he said, if you do a comparison, it's 10 to 1, the difference.
Because they're getting in the ball.
Yeah, I had a 48 in the winter, in 26 feet of water, and I thought I'd foul looked it, and I got it in, and it was at 48, and the method ball, as big as a cricket ball, was wedged in its lips, and the rig was down its throat.
Yeah, what length hook link's using?
It was 4 inches.
4 inches, that length. Oh, yeah.
Well, it tried to eat the whole ball.
Yeah.
I was counting to 6, counting it down, and it suddenly ripped off and thought I foul up one across the back. Got it in, it's in its chops.
In Thailand, when Steve come to Gillam's, A few times, because I was using my big ball for speed, wasn't I, there?
Yeah.
I'd be like, just do these, like sing. And a few times I'd cast out, it'd go in my hand, and they'd be like, what you're not foul? I was like, no, Siamese is taking the ball. And they've just gripped it, because my hook bait's still inside, and they're going, ding, 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 ding. My bail arm's still open. Dum, 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 dum. And then it comes out, and you wind it, and there's still a ball there. But because that you buried the hook and that in there, they've just taken the whole ball. So, yeah, it does.
Well, that's why I want to see you film it underwater and see the effects of the big method ball on the bottom.
Yeah.
And see exactly what they're doing. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I think I think that's got to be. It's one of those methods that you just want. It goes hot and cold in carp fishing. People use something, it's really effective, and then it just completely goes out of fashion. Where would you use a method feeder again?
Well, I would definitely. I mean, I like solid bags. I like a solid bag. And the new arrowheads as a blatant plug, you can mould a paste around the arrowheads.
With the textured before, when I was using them in Thailand, that's how I used them with that. And I was using literally the arrowhead moulded with a bit with breadcrumb, the pellet, coconut milk, and then you're putting the whole lot in, amazing. But now that obviously they're not, the inline arrows didn't come out textured, you've got to make sure that mix is the right consistency. But also the other thing, Frank, sometimes, you're saying that, you can also, I used to do split the difference, so have half the hook length, so if I made like a 6-7 inch hook, half of it sticking out. But again, it goes back to how long, once they've come in and disturbed it, how long does it, because I think a solid bag, once one's come in and attacked it, it's done. You need to be quite, you need to redo them, and otherwise you're fishing with a single.
Well, I had this conversation with a couple of lads earlier on, I think they're over there somewhere, about solid bags, and for me, single beep or like 2 beeps, that's it, I've got to rechuck it, because that's done, is you've just missed out. Can't leave a bag out for long.
Yeah. Go on, get down there. Go and sit next to Frank, Steve.
I'll get down there. Come on, Frank.
It's like the old days on the phone to Frank for love.
No, this is worth trying this, and I did try it. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
When I was using the chop rig in the early days, instead of having a lead on the end, I put a method feeder on it.
Yeah.
And so you've got the.
Well, it's like the maggot liner was like that originally, wasn't it? Big ball of maggots with the hook link as a helicopter. Yeah.
So it's a great technique. And a lot of people, because you might as well have a method on the end rather than just a lead, because it's doing nothing, the lead, really, apart from its weight.
So don't tell Ed behind, but by next week I'd have designed, we've got a new method feeder with a speaker inside it that plays carp eating noises. Yeah? That'd be a good one, wouldn't it? That's what. They think I'm joking. You saw it here first.
He'll be drawing that going back now.
Well, I think we've definitely gone over time. Anyways, it turned out to go all right. I thought it was going to be like tumbleweed at the start, especially with no voice.
Should we do last ditch question?
Last ditch question.
Not a Frank question.
I love Frank's question though. It's like we've seeded him. So I'm gonna have to pay. I'm gonna have to give him a.
Everyone will leave now inspired by Frank and go looking for method feeders.
Honestly, you will never know. No, a lot of the newcomers will never know what that man done from the influence on my fishing he had, and a lot.
Same.
Half of what you see in modern carp. There'd be no fluoro hook baits if it weren't for Frank. We'd still be fishing with boring brown boilies.
There's a lot to be said
catching nothing. What's happening?
There's a lot to be said still for not watching YouTube and actually getting some of the older books that people like Frank wrote and Al wrote and loads of the older books.
Well, I just rewrote what Frank wrote.
Well, you did just plagiarise it a bit, but there's loads of great carp books from back in the day that for young anglers are definitely worth digging out and reading.
Yeah, because it does, a lot of things do go in cycles and go back, and you can, it all works. It all works. It's a case of finding what works for you and what you're confident in, because, I know this clip going out with the rig tying of what it was caught on. There's loads of Americans comment on my Facebook, like, well, man, I just spear them. I'm like, all right, that's good. Glad you spear them. Yeah, that's all good. It's great American accent as I'm losing my voice. But it's obviously for the spear person, the spear suits them. And then there's another one, I just use corn straight on the hook. I'm like, all right. Well, we used to use corn straight on the hook here, and we used to miss bites. But
Yeah.
it is. It's a really good point, Steve. There's so much. If you go back through the recent hook we released, the lock. Now, if we'd released that 5 years ago, everyone would be going, bent hook rig, bent hook. Just because it's got a bend in it doesn't mean principally it performs the same as the hook that was all everyone got angry about. This works mechanically completely differently. But visually, you look at it and think something bad. But because time has evolved, suddenly it's all right. No one cares. I was thinking, oh God, after the twig, what are they going to say about this hook? Bloody hell. God, strap yourself in.
It's a good hook. It's a
Yeah,
really
but it's got a
good
bend in it.
It has got a bend in it.
Oh my God.
But then every straight shank hook with a kicker on it has got a bend in it because the kicker is
All
the
we've
bend.
ever tried to do is recreate the bent hook, but with bits of plastic instead. Well, any more? Last question before we all fall asleep.
There's one.
Always.
Oh, that's a good question.
What's that?
Besides
Mate, don't lie. Honestly, it's got my head going what Frank said about the Bluetooth speaker method feeder. Well, what is next? Well, lots of stuff. Working on rods, reels, alarms.
Grinder.
Oh yeah, the grinder.
grinder's
That's
next.
boring to me now because it's been been working with it. We've been involved with it for 2 years.
Anyone looking forward to the grinder? Bit of show of hands,
Some
bit of
people
market
won't even know what it
research,
is.
2 people.
Some people know what
Three.
grinder is, but it ain't the one you think know what we're talking
Not
about.
that sort of grinder.
They're like, what? They're bringing out an app. There's already a grinder out.
So
It's not called the grinder, it's called the bait, mate.
I know, but you know. So that's
Wonder about-
spring-ish time. Spring.
Oh, God knows. Who knows?
We've been asking
I've given
long.
up, honestly, with product. So
Let's say spring though, shall we? Spring 24.
No, I reckon be modest. Just say June, and if it comes in sooner, better. Because it's our first. When it's electronics, it's not like you make electronics at all the same places, but you want everything to be perfect and to get no hate, no negativity, and everyone to love everything you bring out. And it's even when it's it's a smaller company and you're fighting that fight, you don't want so you don't create that overhype on purpose. You put something out, we're showing it on the stand, haven't we?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
do people think of it? I mean,
I love it. Yeah, I love it.
But you press something, it's portable. You press it, and it actually does crumb pellet into total dust in a few seconds. And boilies and tigers and worms and even bread you can put in it. But it's tiny things, and the reason it's delayed is because you're striving for as perfect as you can get it, because it's going to be 60 quid. 60 quid's a lot of money to a lot of people, and it's got to last.
So
You can't-
June, we think for that. June.
Testing, yeah, it's what you want it. You can't just test things in a lab. It's got to be fished with.
So let's reverse the question. What would you like to see next from OMC?
It's good.
I was hoping for an answer on that. Don't say slippers, we've done them, they're sold out. Socks are available now.
Well,
We've got some ideas now, we've got a Bluetooth speaker anyway.
I've got one.
yeah, go on.
Cooking equipment like gas stoves.
Mate, got the funniest story about that, did you see, I went to China recently, did you see on something? No. So just got back, first time I've ever been. Me and our product development manager, Mike's on the stand, but God, we got so excited. We were going to this place that was all stoves and, stoves, what pots, pans.
Like camping stuff,
Yeah,
like all the camping
lifestyle,
bits, lifestyle,
barbecues.
yeah.
I was like, God, there's bound to be a little idea here, a little gimme that all we've got to do is a few tweaks and it'll be ready. They've driven us, we've driven about 4 hours through the hills into this factory. I'm excited. I'm going to see some pots and pans here. Because I love it. I love product. I love all sorts. I like seeing it. And also, because it was the first time we'd been there, and also with COVID, China's been shut. So you thought it's going to be a little, this is the first time. Maybe there is some things that have been evolved since we've been there, and got there. God, look at the size of this factory. God, there's bound to be some bloody good stoves in here. New ones, that do your toast and boil your kettle in 10 seconds or something, whatever it was. And and play sound underwater. Yeah. So we've got there, walking up the stairs to this showroom. You can see the AstroTurf gleaming through. I'm like, bloody hell, there's going to be some barbecues in here. Walked in, mate. Sorry, excuse me, French. I shit you not. A few pots and pans, about 4 pots, and a little barbecue with some plastic prawns on it. 8-hour round trip. I was so upset. So that really hit a nerve, that question.
So no stove in the...
No stoves coming in a minute. Yeah, basically what I learned from that is don't expect an easy ride. You need the one thing, yeah. And I'm not as... I think a lot of there's clever people out there working on specific concepts, whether it's stoves, and they will be lovers of that industry. And then there could be some in the fishing market, but I don't think there are too many stove fanatics, right? And in the fishing industry, all the factories in China rip them off, and then they sell them into other industries. That's what I think happens, because I don't know, I sit there thinking about how to catch carp. I don't think about how I can boil a kettle quicker.
There's only so many ways you can boil a kettle,
isn't there,
really,
kettle
to be
for
honest.
me anyway when I go. You're not joking. No, I'm not joking. No, I'm joking, honestly.
You're not joking.
Don't have a kettle anymore.
No, you just look at the water and it boils, don't you?
No, God, that'd be a good
That'd be good,
idea.
wouldn't it? Like
Eyes that boil
kettles. Yeah.
Right, go on. Any more questions? No? No, definitely not.
We're done.
Are we all done? We've got to be done, haven't we? Like, thank you everyone for coming. Really
Frank.
important. Show the support for this show. It's the first year back, but it's the most historic, I'd say, for locations. It's been around a long time, but it's back. It hasn't been around a long time, but it's back now. So Vince has done a fantastic job. We've tried to show our support by coming here. We'll be here again, and let's hope we get it bigger, back to its best. And there'll be, more names here, more support, but most of all, thank you for coming out in the cold and sitting here listening to me and Steve. Thank you very much. And Frank! And Frank,
Frank,
boy,
yeah.
what a legend. The proper legend. Thank you, everyone.